I welcome you guys. For our next breakout session, we have Beca Alexander, the founder and president of Socialyte.
Thanks, honey. Hi, ladies. How are you? There's not a lot of gentlemen in here. One, two, a few? That's it? All right, girl power. Love it. Well, thanks for coming. So I had a presentation prepared for you guys, sort of a very generic, this is what we do at Socialyte, this is who we are, this is how we work with influencers and brands. And I came here this morning and I've been here since the beginning, and it seems like there's a lot of information that you guys are sort of missing, that you guys are craving from people in the industry like me. And I decided I'm gonna scrap the entire presentation and essentially tell you guys what you all seem to want to hear and know from someone who's been in the space way longer than I'd like to admit, because that makes me a little, old. I'll give you a little bit about my history, and then you guys can decide if I'm sort of an expert who can give you some tangible information that you guys can take away from this. I started out as a blogger about 12 years ago when the term blogger wasn't anything sort of important. I was in school and I really became obsessed with content just in general, and I felt like there wasn't enough content out in sort of the space about the industry. And by industry, I mean the fashion industry. I went to school for fashion. And I was like, I research a ton about designers, about what's happening, like what are the news, what are people doing, what is like the behind the scenes of all of this. And I want to give that information to people. So I started a blog called Fashion Indie. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of it. It doesn't exist anymore. And I started creating content about the industry, very news focused. And it was never about me. It was just trying to give people, bits and pieces of information. Long story short, the blog grew to about 5 million monthly readers. And at the time, there was no way to make money. There was no way to monetize a blog. We were also on WordPress. And the only money that we essentially saw from the blog coming in was maybe like $200 in Google ads. And we're like, fuck, we can't like even eat on this, right? So I would call my parents for pizza money and be like, I have a team of writers and we can't afford to like, pay them. So I need to at least feed them. So I need pizza money literally every single day. So long story short, one day I got a random email from someone saying, we want to buy Fashion Indie and we want the traffic and we're basically going to like scrap the entire thing. And I instantly made a decision. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not making money. I'm really stressed. The team deserves more. And I basically sold it. I got a job at Cartier doing social marketing and trying to teach a very luxury old school brand what sort of was happening in the social and digital space. And at the time, this was right when influencers became important. I'll give you guys a little bit of history on sort of influencers. There was a little platform called MySpace. Do you guys remember MySpace? And as people were building up a following on MySpace, there was another little platform called lookbook.nu. Do any of you guys remember that? Yeah. There we go. So lookbook.nu was one of the first platforms in the space where people could post, outfit photos, and it became very much about the person and what they were wearing, and people were gaining a following. And then of course, lookbook.nu people, transitioned into bloggers and launched either a blogspot or a WordPress, and then built their following there, and some people went into YouTube, and everyone sort of started cultivating this like following and building an influence. And then of course, Twitter launched, and Facebook and Instagram, and people started transitioning their followers from one platform to another, their content from one platform to another, and here we are, right? So at the time when I was working at Cartier, I had a lot of friends that were right on that cusp of transitioning their audience from Lookbook to blog to other platforms. And they would email me and say, hey, you were a blogger, you used to try to charge brands for various like content moments. And we used to charge $50 at Fashion Indie for a blog post about your brand. And we thought that was like really good money. That was really exciting for us when we got a brand to send us $50 on PayPal. And then, we lost some PayPal fees, and we were like, all right, it's okay, it's fine. So my friends who were in the space came to me and they were like, what did you charge for a blog post? And I was like, $50. And they're all great. And they started reaching back out to the brands that were contacting them and saying, I charge $50. And then they would come back to me and be like, well, now the brand wants 3 blog posts. Should I give them a package deal? And I was like, you know what? I think I can negotiate these deals for you. I'm a Jew. I'm really good at negotiating. I also know what I'm doing. And I'm really, really bored at my shitty corporate job that I don't love, even though I really love the brand. And I was like, let me negotiate your deals for you and take 10% of anything that I can, make for you. So that's what I did. I took on 3 of my friends, who were bloggers, and I started negotiating all of their incoming opportunities while I was still full-time at Cartier. And again, at the time, it was like $50 a post, and I was making $5 off that. And I was like, I might have a business here, but I'm not 100% sure. So I kept doing that for a couple months. And then as that kept sort of growing, as the influencers were growing, brands were reaching out to them a little bit more influencers found out about me as sort of a manager, and then brands found out about me, and then brands started emailing me and saying, who should I work with? You seem to know the space. You seem to understand it. You seem to know what we should charge. I was like, okay, brands want influencers, influencers want brands. Let's make this happen. So I quit my job, and I started essentially connecting the two together. So here we are 6.5 years later. The company's called Socialyte. We essentially do 2 things. One is we represent influencers. So influencers are assigned to our agency for representation and management. And then on the other side of the business, we do brand strategy and casting. So what that means is brands will come to us and they'll say, this is what I'm looking to do. This is the product or brand or service I'm looking to promote. This is how much money I have. How do we work with influencers? Who are those influencers? What should I expect in terms of ROI? What are the KPIs of this campaign? What is the content strategy, et cetera, et cetera. And then once we build out the strategy, we decide who are the influencers that make the most sense for this brand based on those specific KPIs. Does that make sense? How many of you guys consider yourselves an influencer? Yeah, awesome. How many of you guys consider yourselves content creators? Same people, awesome. How many of you guys consider yourselves entrepreneurs? Yes, okay, awesome, same thing, right? So I wanna talk about the word influence or influencer. This is something that we as a company, I think 3 years ago maybe, my whole team is here, thank you guys for showing up to support, I appreciate it, decided that we need to stop using the term blogger, both internally and externally, and start using the word influencer, because most people who had a following that we were working with essentially were no longer bloggers. How many of you guys have a blog? Yes, awesome. Okay, great, fantastic. So when Instagram first launched, or when YouTube became really, really big, there were people who were creating content just on those platforms and not necessarily having the content live on their blogs, right? So we couldn't use the word blogger for everyone who wasn't blogging. So we started using the word influencer. And a lot of times when we go into a brand strategy meeting, we do tell the brand that essentially everyone is an influencer. Really, every single one of you guys technically is an influencer, because whether you have 3 followers or 3 million followers, you still influence the people that you influence. Again, whether it's 3 or 1 million, right? And an influencer has the ability to actually influence some sort of decision that someone else makes, right? But we, as an agency, have decided that the term influencer is thrown around a little too much, right? I got you, girl. So we call them content creators. We call you guys all content creators because that's what you do. You create content for specific platforms. And you engage with an audience, and you guys are essentially talents because your talent is creating content and engaging with your audience. So the good and the bad thing about today versus 10 years ago when I first started in this industry, or 8 years ago when I started Socialyte, is that it is both easier and harder to become an influencer today than it was 8 years ago. There's a lot of conversation right now about people who are just starting out, and maybe they started yesterday, maybe they started a year ago, maybe they started 3 years ago, and they want to get to Kiara's level, you know, or they want to get to Ami Song's level. That's what I heard a lot today. People came up to me and they were like, how do I become Ami? And I'm like, that should not be your goal. Like, you're not going to become Ami because you're not Ami. That's just not how it works. She started 8 years ago. She built a following in a very different way than any of you guys will ever be able to build your following. Does that make sense? So that's what I really, really want to talk to you guys about and like be really, really brutally honest and truthful. And you guys are going to kind of hate me, probably. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. So the best thing about right now is the fact that your following doesn't matter. In terms of the actual number, it is not about the number of followers you have. It is about the content that you create and the way that that content engages your audience. That's what fucking matters, right? So to us, brands will come to us and they're like, we don't care about what following this person has. We're looking at their content and we're looking at their engagement rate. Does everyone know what an engagement rate is? Yeah, great, awesome. So that's what we care about. You know, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, brands were coming to us and they were like, I want your largest influencer. Like, who has the most following and how much do they cost? No one comes to us now and says that, right, team? Great. So the last time a brand came to us and actually requested Ami was probably 2 years ago. So what that means is that you guys have significantly higher chances of working with brands than someone like Ami. So that's really, really awesome. So what that means for you guys is essentially you need to focus on building your content, building your audience, and engaging with that audience. Because if you don't engage with that audience, you're not gonna grow. And today, a lot of the conversations and a lot of the questions from the audience for these various panels has been about how do I grow my following, right? Bessie over here, who was on the last panel, she works at Instagram. Raise your hand. People are gonna have questions for you after. Everyone just constantly comes to her and says, how do I grow my following? And really, 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 at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's how do I tell my story as a person, and what is my story, right? If you're starting an Instagram today, how are you gonna compete with everyone else who is an influencer, right? And that's what we need to see. We need to see you guys telling your story, creating authentic content, and creating it for your audience and being able to engage with your audience in that way. So what is authentic content? That's sort of another topic that I've heard a lot today, or topic term. There's authentic, there's organic, there's original, like all of those terms. What does that mean? To us, it means that you are you. So as an example, 3 years ago, influencers would come to us and they were like, okay, how do I grow? We're like, all right, here's the formula. You post one photo of you post one photo of a cup of coffee or an avocado toast, and then you post one photo that is lifestyle. And the lifestyle photo could be a sunset or like a really pretty cityscape or like, something lifestyle-y, right? That no longer works at all. And those were really fun conversations. And then your entire feed became about coffee and matcha and avocado toast and acai bowls. Remember when those were really cool? And I keep telling influencers, like, no one cares about this really pretty shadow that you found, of a leaf, like, in a coffee shop. Like, that doesn't matter. Who is that engaging? Like that, like, no, don't do that. So basically, we've told every influencer probably in the past year to stop posting filler content. And that was filler content because there was this sort of rumor in the space that if you posted 12 photos a day, you would grow. But there wasn't enough content to post 12 photos a day, right? Because like, what are you doing like 12 times a day? Are you changing outfits? Like, are you going to like 12 different like lunches with people? So now it's not about 12 pieces of content and it's not about filler content. It's about that one piece of content that really fucking matters and that tells your story. And that's what we care about as an agency. That's what Instagram cares about as a platform. That's what brands care about. That's what they want to engage in. And the only thing that makes you different from everyone else is you. It's your face, it's your style, it's your story, it's, you know, your caption, it's anything that essentially is you that isn't someone else. Like my biggest pet peeve, you know, when we talk to influencers and we look at their feed and they're like, can you give me like some constructive criticism? I'm like, you cut off your face in most of your images, like right here. Like just cut it off. Why the fuck did you cut off your face? Do you not like your eyes? Like, did it not fit in the photo, like in, you know, in the screen? Like, why did we do this? Like, doesn't matter, right? We want to see you guys and the brands want to see you guys. So that's just what it is. And the interesting thing is that I think there's still this common misconception in the space that if you're not growing as fast as others or you're trying really, really hard, that you're not necessarily going to succeed. And that's where the next thing that I want to talk about is this idea of like success as an influencer, because that seems to be a topic of conversation all day. So to us, again, at the agency level, we have essentially decided that all influencers want three things. You guys want perks, and what perks are is either free shit, you know, we all want free shit, and that means like product, beauty, whatever that is. You guys want trips and travel opportunities, and you guys essentially want invites to cool parties, you want to be at like the right places with the right people, right? Like those are all perks. And then you want cash. Obviously, we all want cash. I want cash, you guys want cash, we all want cash, it's great. Or you want status. And status could mean different things to different people. And actually, I was just speaking with a really lovely lady about 10 minutes ago who told me that she doesn't actually want any of those things. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want any of those things? Those are the three things that everyone wants. That's what all our influencers want. And she looks at me and goes, no, I want to influence people. I'm probably not wording this correctly, but we're just gonna go with it. She said she wants to make a difference. Like she wants to do something to make a difference in this space. And technically a part of that is status, right? You wanna have enough status that you could actually influence someone for good. And the interesting thing about that is, if we look at the entire influencer space, I think, Bessie, how many people did you say were on Instagram? 800 million people are on Instagram, right? Which means that they're reaching even more people than that, right? Like 800 million people. We at the agency level probably reach almost 1 billion. Like if we look at our entire network collectively and all the influencers we work with, we reach 1 billion people. How many of those people are we influencing for good? And I'm not talking about like posting a pair of jeans, you know, that someone's gonna buy, or, you know, posting like a mascara that's like the best mascara ever. I'm talking about actually like influencing someone to do something good. And one of the initiatives that we have taken on ourselves at the agency this year is making sure that all of our influencers are picking a charity or a endeavor that they are going to support. And that could be anything. So we did all the research for them because sometimes influencers are really lazy and they don't want to do their own research. So, you know, we had one of our lovely girls at the office, Lisa, where are you? Thank you for doing the research. Basically do a really, really big doc that was, you know, very, very specific on the different categories of charities. So like, you know, water, children, food, you know, homeless, women, whatever that is, and all the different charitable organizations and all the ways that you can essentially volunteer at those organizations. And we went to our influencers and we said, pick one and start fucking promoting them because you have influence over people and you're not using it for good. So one of the things that I want each of you guys to do as something tangible that you take away from this is pick a charity organization and start talking about them. Because brands are coming to us and they're not only asking us for diversity in terms of content and diversity in terms of the influencers, but also influencers who have a story to tell and use their influence for good. You know, and unfortunately, we have a very, very small list of influencers that we can pitch to brands who have charitable, you know, causes that they support and promote. So can everyone promise me to do that, please? Awesome. So let's go back to talking about, you know, status, perks, and cash. The other common misconception in the space is just because you don't have a big following means you're not gonna get either status, perks, or cash. I am probably one of the only people who will tell you that, again, at an agency level, we don't love working with micro-influencers. We don't love them. To us, micro-influencers are everyone under 100,000 followers. If that's any of you guys, I will tell you why I'm saying this. One is, no matter your following, you're gonna make money. Like really at the end of the day, if you're creating really good content, if you're engaging with your audience, you have a good engagement rate, you didn't buy your followers, and I'll talk about analytics shortly and how we sort of track each and every one of you guys from the back end. You guys are all gonna make money. At some point, a brand's gonna reach out to you, you're gonna negotiate a $50 deal or a $100 deal or a $1,000 deal, whatever that means, you're gonna make money. What you don't necessarily know or understand is what it takes to make that money and how a brand came to the decision to pay you that money, whether it's $50 or $1,000. And what I think all of you guys really need to learn and have as a resource is understanding not only how did that money come to you, like where did that come from, who made the decision to pay you specifically, whether it was a brand, whether it was an agency, what is the title of the person who gave you that opportunity and made a decision to pay you, but also making sure that whatever you're being paid to do, you guys actually do it and you do it on time. So one of the things that we don't love about micro-influencers is unfortunately they haven't done the research about the space and they don't always understand what it takes to work with brands. So as an example, whether you're being paid $50 or $50,000, you are most likely signing a contract with that brand or that agency that brought you an opportunity. If you've never seen a contract in your life and you get this like really scary 12-page contract where it seems like you're signing away your life, right? Even if it's for $50, that could be really, really scary for people. And if you don't have a lawyer that you can call and say, hey, what am I signing? Can you help make sure that I'm not signing my life away? That's really scary, right? And one of the things that micro-influencers don't have as a resource is someone who can help them legally, with things. They also don't understand timelines a lot. So we work with micro-influencers all the time. And let's say we're working with 100 of them at the same time for one product launch or one brand launch. I can tell you, and this is, my team can essentially tell you guys the same thing, that out of those 100, probably half of them will not understand timelines and not turn in their content on time for the brand's approval. And that's bad. That's really, really bad. You probably fucked with someone's marketing schedule and calendar to the point where they will never work with you again. We won't work with you again, they won't work with you again. And it sucks for us because we're the ones that found you, we're the ones that contacted you, we're the ones that negotiated the deal, we're the ones that fought for you and said, this is the new up and coming person, they're really, really great, let's work with them. And then you didn't answer your emails, you didn't get your shit done on time. My execution team is really upset about it. We have to try to swap in another influencer really, really quickly. It just really sucks, it really sucks in the agency level. So one of the things that I want you guys to also understand is that the key to success in this space is not the dollar that you're gonna get at the end. It's that relationship that you build by getting your shit done, by answering your emails, by being on top of it, by having advice from someone legal, whether you need a manager or an agent to help you with that, or you have a friend, or there's tons of resources available for you guys. But unfortunately, when we work with micro-influencers, shit just doesn't get done. And they don't ask the right questions and they don't come to us and say, hey, I didn't understand this. Can you tell me what I'm signing? Can you help me with this agreement? You sent it to me. We're not trying to fuck you guys over. We promise you. But at the end of the day, we were contracted by the brand to contract you guys and you need to understand what you're signing. You also need to understand how to invoice us as an agency once you've actually done the work. And I can tell you that many, many smaller influencers who have just started in the space, who are just not as experienced as someone like Ami, who's had 10 years of experience working with brands, don't even know how to create an invoice. That's crazy, right? You want to get paid for your work. You guys need to learn how to Google invoice templates. It's not that hard. So next thing I want to talk about is the difference between having an agent or a manager and not having an agent or a manager. So we have a very small roster of people that we really work with. We have about 50 people that are signed to the agency. Most of them have been signed for a really, really long time. They've been with us forever. You know, we discovered them, we nurtured them, we got them to where they are. Now they're making a lot of money, life is great. We are not constantly on a recruiting spree. It's not what we do. If we work with someone really often, so like on the brand strategy side of things, if the brand team is casting the same influencers often and a lot, you know, they come to the talent team and they're like, hey, this person, they're awesome. They're really great to work with. They answer their emails. They get their shit done. They do extra, you know, they'll throw in a couple extra stories. They'll always give us like the analytics on their content once a campaign is done. They'll always invoice on time. Let's look at signing them, right? And then we'll have that conversation. We'll go through the process of, does it make sense for us to sign that influencer? Other than that, we're not in the business of signing influencers. And what I want to talk to you guys about, because we get asked that question a lot, like there's at least 100 influencers a day that contact us and ask us to manage them. Not everyone needs a manager. Like not everyone needs an agent. And the first thing that we ask these influencers who contact us is, why are you looking for a manager? Why are you looking for an agent? Is it just about more opportunities? If that's the case, there's other ways to make more money and get your brand out there. An agent is there for you to negotiate your deals when you are at a level where A, you can't handle your own inbox, B, the brands that are contacting you are really, really big and really scary, you know, and they're asking you things that you may not understand. Or C, you're making enough money that you just need the help and support to make sure that all of that is organized for you. Because essentially when we manage influencers, we like really manage them, meaning like we control their life. Like my team is talking to these people 24/7. We are not only their managers, we're also their moms and their sisters and their best friends and like, you know, all the things all together. That's just how it works. Like we get text messages at midnight saying that they're drunk, they can't get their shit done. We will always stand behind them. It's just what we do. Like that's what we do. So we at the agency essentially have a benchmark for influencers, and that benchmark is $100,000. If you are making less than $100,000 as an influencer, and whether or not that means you're a full-time influencer or you're not a full-time influencer, and this is sort of a side project that you do, if you're making less than $100,000, why do you want to give me $20,000 of that? Just why? Like, it's $20,000, it's a lot of money, you know? And most likely, you don't necessarily need us yet. You most likely just need a lawyer and an accountant, not necessarily an agent. So what I advise all of you guys to go out there and do is find legal assistance and find an accountant who can make sure that you guys are invoicing on time, getting paid by brands, and also filing your taxes, because if you're not, that's really fucking bad. Really bad. And there's also lots of different ways you can file your taxes. And that tax person will also tell you, like, is it time to, you know, establish like an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC or like any of those other things? I don't know. How many of you guys are incorporated? Oh, nice. Great. Perfect. So very, very important. So the other thing that I really want to talk about is, I'm trying to decide what to tell you. Your eyes are beautiful, by the way. I also want to make sure there's tons of time for Q&A, because I feel like this is going to be a good Q&A related group. What else can I tell you guys that you want to hear? So, what do you guys all want? Why are you in this? What's like the end goal? Anyone? Like, why did you start being an influencer, and what are you going to use your influence for? Go.
I want to grow my platform so I can reach more women to extend my message.
Okay, what's your message? Did you guys all hear that? She wants to extend her message. What's the message?
So I want to inspire and empower women through fitness and fashion. That's like my passion, and I've been through a transformation journey. So I want to take all the tools that I've learned over the last like 5 to 8 years and help other women.
Amazing. That's fantastic. How long have you been doing this?
I feel like I've been creating this since I used to be overweight. So it's like, you know, the last 10 years, but like really actively pursuing it the last 6 to 7 months.
Amazing.
Like really going at it from like a brand perspective and like influence and like all of this. The last like 7 months, like hardcore.
Amazing. Good for you. That's an incredible story. So this is a story to tell, you know? Your life story is gonna be your key to success, right? And your success, again, is different to different people. And what I want you guys to really do when you go home today is ask yourself, not only why did I get into this, but what am I looking to get out of it? Again, if it's perks, great. You want some free shit? Same, like that's fucking awesome, do that. If you want status so that you can get to a level where you are actually inspiring women and telling a story and making a difference, that's fucking amazing. If you want cash, there's nothing wrong with that. We'll get you cash. There's tons of ways to make cash if you guys, everyone likes money, right? We all have to look in the mirror and admit to ourselves that we all like money. And it's okay to like money, right? Like, and there's different ways to make money, which is good. You guys have a lot of opportunity to make money in different ways. A lot of the influencers that come to us, you know, they don't necessarily have an end goal because right now the space is a little scary. There's been a lot of conversation today about owning your blog and being able to control a platform versus not owning Instagram. I sort of say this all the time, like, if tomorrow a Russian hacker came along and like killed Instagram, right? What would all of you guys do? Like, would you be able to maintain your following and your audience somewhere else? Did you build another, you know, place where that audience is sort of like coming to you and caring about you? Do you still have a blog? Do you have YouTube? Like, where do you own that conversation with the people that care about you that are following your journey? Because if you don't own it on at least your blog and something else happens to one of these platforms, you guys are all essentially out of a job. And unfortunately, a lot of you guys probably didn't build enough sort of skills along the way to take that to the next thing. You know, I'm gonna say something that you guys will probably hate me for, and I apologize. But if any of you guys are in school and you're looking to drop out and become an influencer, please don't. Just don't. Finish school, do it on the side, but don't drop out and not do it because you think that your career is always gonna be in the influencer space. At least get that degree so that you have something to fall back on. Because honestly, like, I think about that personally all the time. Like, I didn't mean to get into this space. I didn't mean to build an agency. I had no idea where any of this was going. And if anything happens to influencers tomorrow, you know, God forbid, but if they're all gone, what am I gonna do? Right? Like, I've built an agency off of them. Like, we make money off influencers. What is my team gonna do? I have 30 people that rely on me to pay for their bills, right? And what are the skills that I've sort of built for myself and gathered over the years of running this agency and working with influencers that I could take somewhere else? And I urge you guys all to really, really think about that. Because if you're also thinking about quitting your job tomorrow because you don't love it anymore to become an influencer, think twice. And I'm not saying that because you can't make it, because you can. Everyone who can work really, really, really fucking hard will make it. You know, and again, like, that level of success is all about you. Like, we have influencers that come to us and they're just like, you know, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, honestly, you're not waking up every day at 7 a.m. and thinking about your content. You also are just winging it. You know, some days you work, some days you don't work, some days you answer emails, some days you don't. Sometimes we can't get a hold of you and have to call your mom, you know, to make sure that you're alive. Sometimes we email you, call you, DM you, text message you, and you still don't respond. Like, that's what you're doing wrong, you know? You're not working hard enough. Were you guys all in this last panel with Wendy's lookbook? Right? So I've known Wendy for 10 years. She's been an influencer for 8. Her and I had dinner last night, or we were sitting next to each other at the Simply dinner. And, you know, I looked at her and I was like, if you could say one thing and really talk about, like, what is that thing that made you successful? Why are you successful? What would you say? Like, what is that one piece of advice that you would tell people that made you Wendy's lookbook? And she looked at me and goes, Becca, you know, it's just been really, really hard work. And that's true. If we look at our most successful influencers, you know, on the agency level, for example, the most successful influencers that we work with, and it's the Wendy's lookbooks, the Mariana Hewitts, the Marcel Flores's, of the world, they work really, really fucking hard. You know, they wake up at 7 and they go to bed at midnight, and every single day they look at their content, they answer their emails, they answer their text messages, they build relationships, they spend 3 hours a day engaging with their audience, speaking back to them, commenting back to everyone that comments, answering all of their DMs, and everyone else doesn't. Everyone else is lazy. You know, there are times, you know, we sit down as a group. Ooh, got it. Sorry, guys, I have to stop talking, let you guys talk. You know, we sit down as a team a lot, and we look at our influencers that are just not making as much money as we want them to. You know, or they're coming to us and saying like, this month I can't pay my rent, or like, you know, you guys paid me and like I bought that Chanel handbag that I probably shouldn't have bought, and now I can't pay my cell phone bill, so can you just like send me an extra campaign? And we're like, great, like we'll send you an extra campaign, that's not a problem, but you are not working hard enough. Like you need to work a little harder. And the other thing that everyone needs to stop doing is looking at what everyone else is doing. You know, like you guys are competing with each other, unfortunately. Like you got into it at a time when everyone and their mother and their dog is an influencer. That's just what it is. You know, 10 years ago it was easier. When Wendy's lookbook launched, there was only like 6 other people she was competing with. Now you're competing with everybody. So what's gonna make you different than all of those people is how hard you work at becoming an influencer, because you can make it as long as you just work a little bit harder than the person sitting next to you. And what I do want to, before I go into Q&A, really say is that you guys are all stronger together and not individually. You know, as a group, the reason that this has become an industry, the reason that I am able to have an agency and I'm able to like, you know, pay the paychecks of 30 people is because you guys came together as a group and said, we will no longer do shit for free. Now you have to pay us. And that's how this entire thing happened. So think about that when you know, essentially look at someone else and say, why are they succeeding? Or why are they working with this brand and I'm not? Or, you know, what are they doing that I'm not? Just do you and support all the other women and all the other people and men and like this entire community that is influencer marketing. Because if you support each other, we can make a lot of change happen in the world. That was really preachy, I apologize. I do want to open up the Q&A. Great. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm, you know, 6, 7 months, like really hardcore, you know, working on influencing.
Uh-huh.
So I do a lot for free, and I'm very happy about it. I'm not complaining. I love opportunities.
Uh-huh.
You know, obviously it helps me to grow.
Yep.
So I work with a lot of brands, but right now it's all for free. So at what point, level do I start saying, okay, no, now this is my pricing sheet without like, you know, turning them away?
Yep. So I would say that you should do something for free one time and then go back to the brand once you finish that and show the value of what you did for free. And then say, I would like to work with you again, but this time I have to be compensated. And this is what that looks like. And if you need help figuring out a pricing structure, if you need help figuring out what you need in terms of materials to actually prove your worth and prove your value, we will help you.
Okay.
I will give you my email. We will figure it out.
Love it. Great answer. Thank you.
Of course.
On that note,
Yeah.
you said work hard, and that's kind of the question I had.
Yeah.
You know, where's the line between working hard, but kind of also working smart, you know, wasting your time?
Yep.
And then you kind of answered that. So like now, for example, you're trying to really figure out what you're trying to do, and you're trying to approach those brands like they have a big following.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm at that point where I want to help brands and I want to work with brands. But for example, you said agencies like you don't work with people that are making, you know, less than 100 grand. If you're not, I'm not yet
Mm-hmm.
influencing,
Mm-hmm.
but I have all these opportunities coming at
Yep.
me, and I'm like trying to figure out how to juggle all of it.
Okay.
What's the resource if you can't have an agency, you know?
Yeah. So let me just clarify. I didn't say you can't have an agency. I just said typically we don't sign influencers until they're at a certain caliber. And honestly, we're doing it for you guys more than for us because, again, I don't want to take 20% of your business if you don't need that. right? Like, I just don't want to take money from you. I don't feel right doing that. And on the flip side of things, you know, I've been using this example a lot recently, but if you are 100% of your business, right, and we take 20% of that, you still have to do the 80% of the work. So to answer your question about working hard, working smart, it's that 80% that you still have to put in to be smart and work hard. I do. Yes. So resources, let's talk after. My whole team is also here, by the way. They're all over here, so you can ask anyone here. They will be the resource for you. What I do want to mention is it's a really good point about working smart versus working hard. Smart is not crossing the street 200 times to get that one photo. Like, that's not smart. You don't need to do that, right? It's not spending 3 hours face tuning your photo and finding the perfect like visco filter and like, you know, spending time in Photoshop, making yourself like skinnier or like, you know, whatever that is. That's not being smart. The best advantage that you guys have right now compared to, you know, content 5 years ago is that your content is actually going to be more favorable if you don't over edit and it's a bit more organic and just like on it. Like, take a photo doing something in the moment, like start creating moments. Don't go across the street 3 times, you know, or 100 times to get that one photo. That's not working smart. Also, spend most of your time thinking about the content that you're going to create, get it done, post it, and then engage with your audience and track how that piece of content did. And then on the other side of things, look at all the brands that are reaching out to you and actually decide who are the brands that I care about that I would actually use or that I would actually want to promote. And then based on that, decide who you're going to work with and how much money you're going to charge. And if you, again, need help with that, we have plenty of resources. They're all right here. We'll exchange cards. We'll chat. Yes, honey.
So you mentioned how in the beginning that like, you know, you had your blog
Uh-huh.
before and like you're using Google Ads and you weren't making much off of it. And like for small time bloggers who do like eventually want to influence their blog, but obviously make a bit of cash, what are some other ways you can do that other than Google Ads?
Are you using affiliate?
I am using Amazon affiliate program. That's another ad thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a fashion influencer?
But
You're a
it's
beauty
like,
influencer.
It's different because I like interview beauty entrepreneurs because I'm trying to create a platform where everything can be done. So it's not like me giving tips. It's just like connecting to people.
Okay.
Interview beauty entrepreneurs.
Okay. I have some resources for you. Let's talk after. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Anyone else? Yes.
I just said that Instagram and social media, if it goes away tomorrow, do you have such another platform?
Uh-huh.
So when you work with brands, do you see that they want to work with people who have only social media presence because it's very momentary? And if you have a blog, because I don't have a big, huge social media platform, but I do a lot of blog hits and I get emails from people who read something tutorial or some specific information I provided 2 years ago and they asked me where did you get that, how did you do that? So do you think the brands would appreciate in terms of giving money back to people who have a strong blog and
Following?
presence
Yeah.
social media?
Yeah. I don't think a lot of you guys heard that. The question was sort of brand preferences on social versus blog. I think those of you guys that have a blog are really, really not only hard to find, but are really, really valuable to a brand because you're capturing an audience in a different way than you are on social. Social is very, very instant. You know, if people are spending more than 3 seconds, 5 seconds absorbing your content on social, that's really, really good. But your blog is where people are going to spend minutes, you know, long minutes. And that's what's important because you're actually going to have a lot more time to influence someone's decision, you know, to actually do something. And there's ways that you can monetize that traffic, even if it's not brand collaborations. I think, unfortunately, even with us, like 90% of our business is all on Instagram. Like, you know, we're working with brands and trying to create content for Instagram. But what we do when we find people who actually have blog traffic is we go to our brands and say, hey, actually, this person has so many blog followers and they're reaching more people than they are on their Instagram. We should work with them because they actually have, you know, the influence that we're looking for. Does that make sense? Awesome. Anyone else? Because I have like 3 seconds to wrap up. Hi. Correct.
But I was like, I could not understand because at the same time we're kind of talking about also like it seems like the experience as an entrepreneur and the responsibility behind the influencer to be considered a micro influencer. So kind of confusing.
Sure.
Because, for example,
Yep.
before I started to be an influencer, I went to BCIT. I'm from living in Canada. So
Uh-huh.
that's the British Columbia Institute of Technology. I had a course about that. Then I started to this. Then I decided to do the rest, right? So
Okay.
kind of prepare myself.
Yeah.
And but I've been following. I have 12,000 followers on my Instagram and my blog. Like after some stuff, like it had been like many hackers got down many times, but I'm still doing well. Literally, I'm a micro influencer, but I'm way more prepared than many mega influencers right now. So how you guys see that, right? This is not how can you select them?
Yeah, of course. So again, I don't think a lot of you guys heard the question, but it was specific to micro influencers and, you know, me saying that a lot of micro influencers are not sort of prepared for the industry, correct? And so for us, yes, like micro influencers, when we say the term micro-influencers, it is about your following, right? We are looking at someone who has a smaller following, somewhere between 10,000 and usually 100,000. I'm not generalizing everybody in the space. So when we find micro-influencers that have really, really good content, one of the first things that we do is we email them an introductory email. We're like, hey, we're Socialyte. Like, we like your content. Looks like you have good engagement. We might want to work with you. And one of the ways that we see whether or not you're on top of it is how quickly do you respond to that email. If it took you 6 days to respond to that email, we're just not gonna work with you. Because like, we can't risk that for the brand, right? If you're like super on top of it and we get a response within 24 hours, we start having the conversation, we see what the response is. You guys will actually be really surprised to hear that a lot of people don't know how to write complete sentences. Like, they just don't. You know, that's a huge indicator on whether or not you are equipped and prepared to be an influencer in the sense of making money. Because again, whether we're sending you $50 or $50,000, the expectations are the same. It's that you will respond, you will get your shit done on time, you understand contracts, you understand deadlines, you will post your content, you will send us an invoice, we can complete a campaign in the way that we are responsible to the brand to complete the campaign. You know, so all of that we will see through our initial communications with you as a micro-influencer. Is that clear? Awesome. All right, guys, I think I have to wrap up. I'm going to get kicked out. But again, I'm here if you have any more questions. My team is here to support. Thank you.